Why are we promoting a fear factor here?
Fish falling from the sky in Mexico. This actually happened, and we've got the scientific proof.
Every now and then, the wildest things fall from the sky all over the world, leaving no clues about where they came from. From bars of solid gold to literal frozen iguanas. It gets even more bizarre as you watch on.
Lightning, hail and fireworks are some of the causes that experts are now looking into as they try and figure out what's caused this bolt out of the blue.
Join us today as we tell you about the time hundreds of birds fell from the sky for no explicable reason. 1. A mangled mess. New Year's Day is typically a time for fresh starts, but for the people of Beebe, Arkansas, January 1st, 2011 was anything but that. Instead of celebrating, they were faced with the bizarre task of dealing with thousands of bird carcasses scattered across their town. It was like something out of a disaster movie. Blackbird corpses littering the streets, lawns, and even rooftops, as if they'd just fallen from the sky. Residents woke up to find at least 1,000 red-winged blackbirds sprawled out.
Lightning, hail and fireworks are some of the causes that experts are now looking into as they try and figure out what's caused this bolt out of the blue.
Over a 1-mile stretch of the town, the sheer number of them was so overwhelming that drivers passing through the area had to dodge the bird remains to avoid running them over. It wasn't just a few birds here and there, this was a full-on rain of lifeless blackbirds, and it had everyone spooked. By the following morning, crews were working to clean up the mess. Like and subscribe right now, and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week. Workers from the U.S. Environmental Services were tasked with removing the birds, and by 11 a.m. on Sunday, the last bird had been cleared. The team claimed they had picked up around 2,000 bird bodies. The mayor reassured people that the workers were wearing protective suits as a precaution and any fear of contamination. 2. Alerting the authorities. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission first started getting calls about the birds dropping from the sky at around 11:30 p.m. on New Year's Eve. One of the local officials, Milton McCullough, said he couldn't believe it when the mayor told him about the birds. He thought it was some kind of prank.
Our entrance to our building is blocked off.
I work in the Frostbank Tower, and they told us we had to evacuate the building.
Why are we promoting a fear factor here?
Especially when the mayor woke him up at 4 a.m. to tell him they had birds literally falling out of the sky. Wildlife Officer Robbie King was sent by the AGFC to check out the scene, and as more birds continued to fall, he gathered up 65 of their bodies to send off for testing. The corpses were shipped to the Arkansas Livestock and Poultry Commission Lab and the National Wildlife Health Center in Madison, Wisconsin, where scientists would perform necropsies, essentially autopsies for animals, to figure out what had caused this weird event. 3. Solving the mystery. As soon as the news broke, theories about what could have caused the incident started flying around. Some said it was something out of the ordinary, but Karen Rowe, an ornithologist with the AGFC, explained that mass bird demises like this aren't unheard of. She told a radio station that incidents like this could be caused by lightning strikes or even high-altitude hail. Early examinations showed that the birds had experienced trauma, like head injury, which could have been caused by either hitting something in the air or smashing into the ground. One thing they ruled out pretty early on was poisoning. Rowe explained that a bird that is sick or poisoned wouldn't be able to fly, so whatever happened to these birds must have been sudden. She suggested that something may have startled them from their roost in the trees, and once they were in the air, they encountered whatever ultimately caused their passing. One popular theory was that New Year's Eve fireworks had spooked the birds, leading them to fly erratically and possibly lose their life from the stress. All of this would have made sense, except shortly after, another incident occurred. 4. The swarm moves north. A similar strange occurrence took place in northern Mexico, where a video showing birds dropping from the sky went viral. The footage, captured by a security camera, looked like something straight out of a horror movie. A massive flock of yellow-headed blackbirds suddenly fell to the ground, hitting the pavement en masse. While many birds managed to fly back up within seconds, others weren't so lucky and lay motionless on the ground. The video of this eerie event spread quickly, and though local authorities couldn't immediately explain the sudden loss of life, it didn't take long for theories to start swirling. Just like in Arkansas, some people were quick to suggest everything from environmental pollution to some kind of supernatural event. However, scientists were a little more grounded in their ideas. 5. An explanation. The most credible theory put forward by experts was that the birds were fleeing from a predator, perhaps a falcon or a hawk. This theory made the most sense to many ecologists. One explained that when a large flock of birds is startled by a predator, they tend to make quick, desperate moves to escape, which can sometimes lead to tragic accidents. It's believed that in the chaos, some of the birds may have misjudged their surrounding and crashed into the ground. Another ecologist shared similar thoughts, adding that although no predator was caught on camera, it's very likely that one was responsible for the bird's behavior. He noted that birds in large flocks often fly in tight formations, mimicking the movement of the birds ahead of them without paying attention to their surroundings. This can sometimes lead to mass collisions with the ground or infrastructure. So, while the images of birds dropping out of the sky might look terrifying, the explanations for such events often come down to natural causes. Predators, stress, or environmental factors like fireworks are usually to blame for these strange and unsettling incidents. It just goes to show that sometimes the things that seem the most mysterious can have surprisingly simple explanations, though that doesn't make it any less spooky when birds start falling from the sky. 6. Spiders. In Australia, back in 2015, something straight out of a sci-fi movie happened. Millions of tiny spiders rained down from the sky. Yes, you heard that right. It literally rained spiders. This strange event, often referred to as spider rain or angel hair because of the fine, hair-like strands of silk they leave behind, was no freak accident. It turns out that spiders have a sneaky trick called ballooning. When they're ready for a journey, they climb up to a high point, stick their rears up in the air, release silk, and catch the wind. Rick Vetter, a retired arachnologist from California, once explained that this isn't an isolated event, but something happening all around us constantly, just out of sight. 7. Frozen iguana. Onto something even more bizarre. It was a chilly day in Tallahassee, Florida, and it was the first snowfall the city had seen in nearly 30 years. But instead of just snow, some areas in Florida were bombarded by, well, frozen iguanas falling out of trees. These cold-blooded reptiles, while native to warmer climates, have settled in Florida, usually hanging out in suburban trees. When temperatures drop, though, they literally freeze up and lose their grip on branches, tumbling to the ground like statues. They haven't passed away, though, just temporarily paralyzed, waiting for the sun to thaw them out so they can scamper off again. Wildlife expert Ron McGill from Zoo Miami explained how the iguanas basically shut down when the cold hits, making them look as if they've been frozen in time. 8. Golf ball. Speaking of strange things falling from the sky, how about golf ball? Yes, you heard that right. In 1969, Punta Gorda, Florida, saw something that left the community scratching their heads. A heavy downpour came with an unexpected twist, a shower of golf balls. Local police officers even gathered some up, joking about their haul. The town was baffled, especially since there weren't any nearby golf courses missing balls. The most logical theory? A waterspout, which is something like a watery tornado, must have swept up a pond full of lost golf balls and dumped them onto Punta Gorda. But even with that explanation, locals still wondered, where exactly did these mysterious golf balls come from? 9. Giant squid. Let's talk about a fishing story that sounds too strange to be true. In June 1997, a man fishing off the coast of the Falkland Islands ended up in a hospital, unconscious for 2 days, after a frozen squid hit him in the head. How a frozen squid ended up falling from the sky remains a mystery. Was it dropped by a bird? Did it fall from a plane? Whatever the reason, it left people scratching their heads and probably added a new fear to their list. Watch out for flying squid. 10. Meat. If you thought things couldn't get weirder, let's talk about raining meat. In 1876, a Kentucky woman named Mrs. Allen Crouch was outside, making soap, when meat started falling from the sky. Huge, smelly chunks of meat.
Okay, so tonight traffic is moving smoothly again in Oakland after a meaty spill on the highway.
This bizarre event, known as the Kentucky Meat Shower, left everyone from locals to scientists puzzled. Some folks even tasted the mysterious meat as if that's a normal reaction, with opinions ranging from mutton to venison to bear. One scientist thought it might not be meat at all, but rather a type of bacteria that turned into a jelly-like substance when exposed to rain. However, the most popular theory was that vultures had been flying overhead, decided to lighten their load, and accidentally dropped their half-digested meal. Still, even with this theory, the Kentucky Meat Shower remains one of the strangest unsolved mysteries of all time. 11. Coffee additives. In South Carolina, there was another odd occurrence in 1969. This time, a factory mishap led to non-dairy creamer raining down from the sky. The Cremora factory had malfunctioning air vents, and instead of keeping the powder in, it released the mixture into the air, where it mingled with the rain and fell back down as a sticky mess. Residents of Chester, South Carolina, found themselves caught in a downpour of creamer thanks to the factory's technical issues. The company behind Cremora, Borden, ended up getting fined for the incident, but not until decades later. 12. Jelly. In 2008, a hiker in Scotland stumbled upon a giant pile of clear jelly while out exploring. Confused by the odd substance, he shared his discovery on a local radio show. To his surprise, other listeners reported finding similar slime, and soon, photos from all over the country came pouring in. Some people thought it might be the leftovers of birds regurgitating frogs' toxic ovaries, while scientists were left scratching their heads after DNA tests on the jelly came back inconclusive. Whatever it wasn't just a one-off event, with more sightings of jelly piles appearing across the country. 13. Fish. Have you heard of this crazy phenomenon of fish falling from the sky? In Mexico, this event happens so frequently it even has a name, lluvia de peces, or rain of fish. The occurrence has been reported in other coastal cities around the world too, from California to India. The most likely explanation is that waterspouts, which are basically tornadoes that touch down on water, suck up fish from the ocean or lakes, carrying them through the air before dropping them on land. It's like an ocean's version of a rainstorm, only with flopping fish instead of water droplets. 14. Russian gold. In March 2018, a rather unexpected and dazzling event took place over Siberia when a transport plane had a mishap that left Yakutsk airport shimmering. The aircraft, loaded with a fortune of around $378 million worth of gold, platinum, and diamonds, accidentally spilled some of its precious cargo. The mishap occurred because the cargo hatch of the plane tore open during takeoff, causing nearly 200 hefty gold bars to spill out onto the runway and into the snow surrounding the airport. Naturally, this turned into a treasure hunter's dream for a short while, as people imagined stumbling upon riches scattered across the frozen landscape. However, much to everyone's disappointment, airport authorities and local police later confirmed that they managed to recover every last piece of the golden treasure, leaving no fortune hunters with sudden riches to claim. 15. Mysterious documents. Back in July 1973, an unusual occurrence puzzled residents and experts alike in Albany, New York. Bob Hill, who owned a local radio station, WHRL, was simply going about his day, taking out the station's garbage, when something strange caught his eye. It was around 4:15 p.m. when he saw what looked like white specks falling from above, way higher than the station's 300-foot transmitter. Curiosity got the better of him, and he followed the objects until they landed in a nearby hayfield. Upon closer inspection, these falling objects turned out to be two sets of complex documents filled with formulas and graphs. It seemed as though these papers were part of some intricate explanation regarding normalized extinction, an incomplete Davis-Greenstein orientation, concepts from the world of astrophysics. To this day, no official explanation has been given for how these scientific papers ended up floating down from the sky. 16. Blood rain. Sometimes, nature has a way of throwing us the strangest of surprises. as seen in northwest Spain back in 2014. One day, residents of several small villages were shocked when they noticed that the water in their fountains had turned a deep, eerie red, reminiscent of something from a horror movie. However, it wasn't the work of any sinister force or crime, but rather microscopic algae.
Scientists are puzzled and struggle to explain this freak event of nature.
Scientists later found that the culprit was a type of freshwater algae known as Haematococcus pluvialis. It was as if the sky decided to play a cruel trick, turning regular rain into what locals dubbed blood rain. 17. Money. Imagine walking through the streets of Rome one day, and suddenly, money starts falling from the sky. Well, that's exactly what happened on October 8, 1976, when a small plane dropped 500 lire, 1,000 lire, and 10,000 lire notes over the Piazza Venezia. The crowd below was understandably caught off guard, probably thinking their luck had just changed. However, this wasn't a one-time event in history. In fact, similar instances of money raining from the sky have been reported pretty often. For example, in 2015, an unexpected shower of currency hit Kuwait City when hundreds of thousands of UAE dirhams started raining down, baffling everyone. No one was quite sure where the cash had come from, leaving people with pockets full of unexplained wealth. A smaller-scale version of this took place in Indianapolis in 2017, when an electrician noticed about $200 in bills blowing off a nearby roof. As you might imagine, the origin of this unexpected windfall was never traced. Similarly, back in 1940, in the Russian village of Meshera, residents experienced a literal treasure tornado when 16th-century coins rained down. 18. Human waste. In October 1992, the Cinnamon family in Woodinville, Washington, was simply relaxing, watching a Seahawks game on TV, when their quiet afternoon took a sudden and nasty turn. Out of nowhere, something crashed through their roof, leaving a mess of greenish ice chunks all over their living room. As the ice started to melt, a foul smell filled the air, and the family quickly realized that this was no ordinary ice. A few days later, the Federal Aviation Administration confirmed
crap, and it may not have come from a bird, but she says it did come from the sky.
that what had crashed through their roof was, in fact, frozen human waste that had leaked from a passing United Airlines flight. The Cinnamons were left thankful that no one was hurt, but understandably disturbed by the bizarre and disgusting event. Unfortunately, incidents like this aren't as rare as you'd hope. There have also been reports of this happening in cities like Denver and Chicago. 19. Frogs. While we're on the topic of weird things falling from the sky, let's talk about frog rain, a phenomenon that seems almost biblical. One of the earliest recorded incidents occurred in Kansas City, Missouri, in 1873. According to reports at the time, a shower of frogs darkened the sky and covered the ground as far as the eye could see after a rainstorm. Though no one could explain exactly why this happened, scientists speculate that strong winds or even tornadoes might have picked up the frogs from their watery homes and deposited them elsewhere. The logic is pretty straightforward. If a wind is strong enough to uproot trees or flip cars, it can definitely carry some unfortunate frogs along with it. 20. Blue spheres. In 2012, a hailstorm in Dorset, England, left former aircraft engineer Steve Hornsby with quite the mystery on his hands. After the storm had passed, he noticed tiny blue balls scattered across his yard. These strange spheres were unlike anything he had seen before. Hornsby, thinking quickly, collected some of them with a spoon and stored them in a jar. Unlike hail, these blue spheres didn't melt at room temperature, which left both Hornsby and meteorological authorities stumped. Speculation arose that these blue orbs could be some type of marine invertebrate egg, possibly transported by birds. However, after further analysis, scientists at Bournemouth University found that these mysterious balls were actually made from sodium polyacrylate, a substance commonly used in things like gardening and diapers to absorb water. it was a pretty anticlimactic ending. 21. Toad shower. Back in 1794, a group of 150 French soldiers was stationed near the village of La Line when they found themselves caught in a heavy rainstorm. However, what was most shocking wasn't the rain itself, but the fact that it brought along some rather unusual company, toads. Along with the raindrops, the sky appeared to be dropping toads, some of which landed in the soldiers' hats and uniforms. Interestingly, many of these toads still had their tails, hinting that they were in their tadpole stage. 22. Boiled bats. In January 2018, a severe heat wave struck Campbelltown, Australia, with temperatures skyrocketing to a scorching 111.5 degrees Fahrenheit. The intense heat had a tragic impact on the local population of flying fox bats. These bats can only tolerate temperatures up to around 86 degrees Fahrenheit, and once the temperature exceeded that, their bodies began to shut down. The heat essentially caused their brains to overheat.
Health experts have warned residents not to touch the dead creatures amid concerns about the spread of virus or bites and scratches from bats.
And as a result, hundreds of them fell from the trees, succumbing to the extreme weather. A local colony manager, Kate Ryan, explained that after a certain point, the bats essentially boil from the inside. Sadly, over 200 bats lost their lives. 23. A whole bunch of space stations. Orbiting the Earth at speeds of around 17,500 miles per hour is no small feat, and space stations and satellites generally do a pretty good job of keeping up. But sometimes they lose their momentum and begin the long, inevitable descent back to Earth. One such case is China's Tiangong-1 satellite, a 9.4-ton prototype space station that was on course to re-enter Earth's atmosphere. Although it was expected to break apart upon re-entry, it wasn't the first space debris to return to Earth. Over the last 50 years, more than 5,900 tons of space junk has made its way back through the atmosphere. Fortunately, the odds of getting hit by this debris are astronomically low, much lower than your chances of winning the lottery, so you can keep playing without too much worry about a falling satellite crashing down on you. 24. Lethal white powder. On a quiet Saturday in July 1976, the residents of Seveso, Italy, were startled by a loud whistling sound coming from the nearby Iguana chemical factory. What followed was far more concerning. A thick grey cloud rolled over the town, carrying a white dust that settled over everything in sight. The strange, foul-smelling dust was later found to contain dioxin, a highly toxic chemical far more lethal than substances like arsenic. It took about 10 days for the residents to realize the danger. Long-term studies later revealed the horrific effects of dioxin exposure, including higher risks of diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. 25. Candy storm. If you've ever dreamed of living in a world where candy falls from the sky, then Lake County, California, had something close to that experience. Back in 1987, twice that year, residents witnessed what could only be described as a real-life candy storm. Lumps of crystallized sugar, each about a quarter-inch in size, mysteriously rained down from the heavens. Residents didn't seem too bothered by the sugary weather, though, as many of them reportedly collected the candy and made syrup from it. It's like something straight out of a Willy Wonka movie. 26. Rainbow meteorite. In 2019, something spectacular happened over Costa Rica. A rainbow-colored meteorite exploded over the villages of La Palmera and Aguas Zacas, scattering its remains across the area. But this wasn't just any meteorite. Ongoing studies have suggested that the debris might actually contain some of the building blocks of life itself. The rock is thought to have broken off from a larger asteroid formed from dust within an ancient nebula, the very same nebula that gave rise to our solar system. If these findings prove accurate, it could provide valuable insights into the origins of life on Earth. 27. Green fireball. On the southern coast of Tasmania, Australia, researchers aboard the vessel Investigator captured a rare and astonishing sight, a bright green meteor streaking across the night sky. This cosmic event took place in November 2020 And although the footage was captured in black and white, the team aboard the ship knew they had witnessed something extraordinary. The meteor was so bright that it lit up the entire sky as it descended toward the Tasman Sea before eventually breaking apart. John Hooper, the voyage manager, expressed his amazement, saying that reviewing the footage revealed the sheer size and brilliance of the meteor, and the team felt incredibly fortunate to have captured it on their live stream. It's not every day that you get a front row seat to a celestial event like that. 28. Mud. On April 11th in 1902, a massive dust storm in Illinois stirred up so much debris that the dust clouds were carried across the eastern U.S. When these clouds encountered rain over New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania, mud started to pour down from the sky. It didn't last long, but it sure made an impression.
That's when he witnessed a rare event, mud rain.
A correspondent in Penn Yan, New York, described how people on the streets were getting splattered with mud, and even clothes left out to dry were smeared. Someone reported that the muddy rain spread across a 40-mile area, leaving everything it touched dirty. 29. The largest meteorite ever. On March 18, 1976, people in northeast China were treated to an incredible sight as the Jilin meteorite blazed through the sky. Eyewitnesses saw a fiery red ball that exploded and split into three before crashing to Earth. When experts examined the impact site, they found 11 massive chunks weighing around 4 metric tons in total. The biggest piece, called Meteorite 1, is on display at the Jilin Meteorite Museum, standing as the largest stone meteorite discovered in modern history. So which one of these presents from the sky shocked you the most? Have you ever seen something really bizarre fall from the sky? Let us know in the comments.